The rain drummed against the windows of Luna's Haven, a small cafe tucked between a bookstore and an antique shop on Maple Street. Elena Martinez wiped down the espresso machine for the third time that evening, her hands trembling slightly as she watched the clock tick toward closing time. At 28, she had built a quiet life in this sleepy town of Millbrook, far from the chaos of her past. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her warm brown eyes held secrets that ran deeper than anyone could imagine. The cafe was her sanctuary, filled with the comforting aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and homemade pastries. Vintage photographs lined the walls, and soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Most customers saw Elena as the friendly cafe owner who knew everyone's coffee order by heart. They had no idea that upstairs, in the cozy apartment above the shop, lived two extraordinary children who could never attend regular school or play in the town square like other kids their age. 7-year-old twins Marcus and Luna sat at the kitchen table, working on their homeschool assignments. Marcus, with his striking silver eyes and jet-black hair, was solving math problems that would challenge high school students. His sister Luna, identical in coloring but with a gentler demeanor, was reading books meant for college freshmen. Both children possessed an intelligence that went far beyond their years, along with other abilities that Elena worked hard to keep hidden. "Mom, when can we go outside during the day?" Luna asked, looking up from her advanced biology textbook. The question pierced Elena's heart, as it did every time one of her children asked about the normal childhood experiences they couldn't have. "Soon, sweetheart," Elena replied, the same answer she had given countless times before. "We just need to wait a little longer." The truth was far more complicated. Elena had been running for 7 years, ever since the night she fled from Damien Cross, the powerful vampire king who had no idea he was the father of her children. Their relationship had been a whirlwind romance that lasted only 6 months, but in that time, Elena had fallen completely under his spell. Damien was unlike any man she had ever met, devastatingly handsome with platinum blonde hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. He commanded respect wherever he went, and his presence filled any room he entered. But Elena had discovered the truth about Damien's nature on their last night together. She had arrived at his penthouse apartment unexpectedly and witnessed something that changed everything. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she saw Damien feeding from a willing donor, his fangs extended and his true vampiric nature revealed. The elegant man she had fallen in love with was something far more dangerous than she could have imagined. Fear had overwhelmed her in that moment, not just for herself, but for the secret she carried. Elena was already 2 months pregnant, though she hadn't yet told Damien. Seeing him in his true form made her realize the impossible situation she faced. How could she raise half-vampire children? What kind of life would they have in Damien's world of darkness and blood? That same night, while Damien slept in his private chambers, Elena gathered her few belongings and disappeared into the night. She used her savings to travel across the country, changing her name from Elena Rodriguez to Elena Martinez, and eventually settling in Millbrook, where no one asked too many questions about the quiet woman who opened a small cafe. The pregnancy had been unlike anything described in medical textbooks. The twins grew faster than normal human babies, and Elena could feel their supernatural strength even before they were born. She had given birth at home with only a midwife she trusted, paying extra for discretion and silence. From their first day, Marcus and Luna displayed abilities that both amazed and terrified their mother. As toddlers, they could understand complex conversations and showed reflexes that were impossibly quick. They never got sick, never seemed to feel pain from minor injuries, and their eyes would sometimes flash with an otherworldly light when they were emotional. Most concerning of all, they showed an aversion to bright sunlight and seemed most energetic during nighttime hours. Elena had learned to manage their unique needs through trial and error. She kept blackout curtains in their rooms and scheduled their most active learning time for after sunset. She prepared special meals that included raw meats, which the children craved instinctively. Most importantly, she taught them to hide their abilities from anyone who might notice. "We're different from other people," she would explain to them. That's not bad, but it means we have to be careful. There are people who wouldn't understand, and we need to protect ourselves. The children accepted their mother's explanations without question, trusting her completely. They understood that their strength, their intelligence, and their unusual dietary needs were secrets to be kept. Marcus, the more rebellious of the twins, sometimes chafed against the restrictions, but Luna helped keep him in line with her calmer influence. Running the cafe provided the perfect cover for their unusual lifestyle. Elena could work during the day while the children slept, and she could spend evenings with them when they were most alert. The business did well enough to support them, and the townspeople had grown to love the warm, welcoming atmosphere Elena created. But tonight felt different. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something that would change their carefully constructed life forever. She had learned to trust her instincts over the years, and every nerve in her body was on high alert. As she finished cleaning the cafe, Elena heard the soft chime of the front door. She looked up in surprise, as she had already flipped the sign to closed and locked the door. Her blood ran cold when she saw the figure silhouetted in the doorway. Even after 7 years, she would recognize that imposing frame anywhere. Damien Cross stood in her cafe, his platinum blonde hair perfectly styled despite the rain, his ice blue eyes scanning the room with predatory intensity. He wore an expensive black coat that emphasized his tall, muscular build, and his presence seemed to charge the very air around him. Time seemed to stop as their eyes met across the empty cafe. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs, and she fought the urge to run. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. After 7 years of running, 7 years of looking over her shoulder, the Vampire King had finally found her. "Hello, Elena," Damien said, his voice exactly as she remembered it, deep, smooth, and carrying an authority that made others instinctively want to obey. "You look well." Elena stood frozen behind the counter, her mind racing. How had he found her? More importantly, did he know about the children? Marcus and Luna were upstairs, probably still doing their homework, completely unaware that their father had just walked into their lives. "Damien?" she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" He stepped further into the cafe, his movements fluid and graceful like a predator stalking prey. Elena noticed that he moved with the same dangerous elegance that had first attracted her to him all those years ago. Nothing about him had changed. Vampires didn't age the way humans did. "I've been looking for you," he said simply, his eyes never leaving her face. "For 7 years, Elena. 7 years of wondering why you disappeared without a word, why you left me." Elena swallowed hard. "I had my reasons." "I'm sure you did." Damien moved closer to the counter, and Elena caught his familiar scent, something like expensive cologne mixed with danger and power. "But I think we need to talk about those reasons, don't you?" Before Elena could respond, she heard footsteps on the stairs leading down from the apartment. Her blood turned to ice. Marcus appeared first, his silver eyes curious as he looked at the stranger in their cafe. Luna followed close behind, both children drawn by voices they didn't recognize. The moment Damien saw the twins, everything changed. Elena watched in horror as recognition dawned in his ice-blue eyes. She could see him taking in every detail. Marcus's silver eyes that matched his own supernatural gaze, Luna's delicate features that mirrored Elena's but with an otherworldly beauty, their pale skin and the way they moved with inhuman grace. But it was more than just their appearance that gave them away. Elena saw Damien's entire body go rigid, his nostrils flaring slightly as if he was scenting the air. His vampiric senses were telling him something that his eyes had already confirmed. "My God," he breathed, his usual composed demeanor cracking for the first time since Elena had known him. "They're mine." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Elena felt her carefully constructed world beginning to crumble around her. The secret she had guarded for 7 years was out, exposed in a single moment of recognition. Marcus and Luna stood frozen on the stairs, sensing the tension in the room even if they didn't fully understand it. They looked between their mother and this imposing stranger, their young minds trying to process what was happening. "Mom?" Luna's voice was small and uncertain. "Who is this man?" Elena opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. How could she explain this moment to her children? How could she tell them that their father, the one they had never known, was standing in their cafe, looking at them with a mixture of shock, awe, and something that might have been recognition of his own blood calling to him? Damien took a step toward the stairs, his eyes fixed on the twins. "How old are they?" he asked, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "7," Elena whispered, knowing there was no point in lying now. 7 years, Damien repeated, the math clearly working in his head. "You were pregnant when you left." Elena nodded, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I was scared, Damien. I didn't know what to do." "So you ran." His voice carried a note of pain beneath the anger. "You took my children and ran." "They're my children," Elena said fiercely, maternal instinct overriding her fear. "I raised them. I protected them. I gave them a life." "A life in hiding," Damien countered. "A life where they can't be who they really are." Elena felt the truth of his words like a physical blow. She looked at Marcus and Luna, saw the confusion in their young faces, and realized that everything was about to change. The life she had built for them in Millbrook, the safety she had tried to provide, the normal childhood she had attempted to give them, it was all about to disappear. Damien's presence in their cafe wasn't just a coincidence. Vampire kings didn't travel alone to small towns without a purpose. He had come for them, and Elena knew that running again wasn't an option. Not anymore. The rain continued to drum against the windows, but inside the cafe, silence stretched between them like a chasm. 3 generations of supernatural blood stood in the same room for the first time, and Elena could feel the weight of destiny pressing down on all of them. Whatever happened next would change everything. The quiet life she had built for her children was over, and their real story, the one involving vampire royalty, ancient bloodlines, and powers beyond human understanding, was just beginning. Elena looked at Damien's face and saw something there that terrified her more than his anger or his supernatural abilities. She saw a father looking at his children for the first time, and she knew that no force on earth would make him walk away from them again. The Vampire King had found his heirs, and nothing would ever be the same. The tension in the cafe was so thick Elena could barely breathe. Damien stood motionless, his ice-blue eyes fixed on Marcus and Luna as if he was memorizing every detail of their faces. The twins remained on the stairs, their supernatural instincts telling them this was no ordinary visitor, even though they didn't yet understand why. "Children," Elena said carefully, her voice steadier than she felt, "please go back upstairs. I need to talk to this man." Marcus, ever the protective one despite his young age, crossed his arms. "We're not leaving you alone with a stranger, Mom." Damien's expression shifted slightly at hearing Marcus call Elena Mom, a flicker of something that might have been pain crossing his features. "I'm not a stranger," he said quietly, his voice gentler than Elena had ever heard it. "My name is Damien Cross, and you—" He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "You're my children." The confession hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Luna's dark eyes widened, and Marcus took a protective step in front of his sister. Neither child seemed particularly shocked, which surprised Elena until she remembered how perceptive they were. They had probably sensed something familiar about this man the moment he walked in. "Our father?" Luna whispered, her voice barely audible. "But Mom said, your mother told you I was dead, didn't she?" Damien's eyes found Elena's, and she saw understanding there along with hurt. It was easier than explaining the truth. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. She had told the twins their father had died before they were born, unable to face explaining why she had run from him. Now that lie was crumbling and her children were staring at her with questions she wasn't ready to answer. "Why don't we all sit down?" Damien suggested, gesturing to one of the cafe tables. His tone was diplomatic, but Elena could hear the underlying command. This wasn't really a request. Reluctantly, Elena came around the counter while Marcus and Luna descended the stairs. They sat at the largest table, an awkward family reunion 7 years in the making. Elena positioned herself between Damien and the children, her protective instincts still on high alert. "I want to understand," Damien began, his eyes moving between Elena and the twins. "Why did you leave, Elena? Why did you take them away from me?" Elena glanced at Marcus and Luna, who were listening intently to every word. She had to be careful about what she revealed. "You remember that last night?" she said carefully. "What I saw." Damien's jaw tightened with understanding. "You saw me feeding." The word feeding made both children perk up with interest. Elena had been very careful about how she explained their own dietary needs, always framing their craving for raw meat as a genetic condition rather than something supernatural. "I was scared," Elena continued. "I didn't understand what it meant for our future together. When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked." "You could have talked to me," Damien said, pain evident in his voice. "You could have given me a chance to explain." "Explain what? That you're a vampire? That our children would be half vampire?" "I was 21 years old, Damien. I had no idea how to handle something like that." Marcus and Luna exchanged glances, their sharp minds clearly processing this information. Elena realized with growing dread that she was revealing family secrets she had planned to keep hidden for years longer. "Is that what we are?" Marcus asked directly, his silver eyes meeting Damien's without fear. "Half vampire?" Damien looked to Elena for permission before answering. When she gave a reluctant nod, he turned back to his son. "Yes, that's exactly what you are." "That explains so much," Luna said thoughtfully. "Why we're different from other kids, why we can't go out during the day, why you need blood," Damien finished gently, "or at least raw meat as a substitute." Both children nodded, and Elena was struck by how easily they accepted this revelation. She had spent 7 years worrying about how to tell them the truth, and they were handling it with remarkable maturity. "Are you really a king?" Marcus asked, leaning forward with interest. "Mom called you the Vampire King?" Damien smiled, the first genuine expression Elena had seen from him since he arrived. "I am. I rule over a large territory and many vampire clans." "Which means," he looked at both children seriously, "you two are vampire royalty." Elena's heart sank. She had feared this moment for 7 years, the moment when Damien would claim his children and try to take them into his world of darkness and danger. "Does that mean we have to leave Mom?" Luna asked, her voice small and worried. "No," Damien said quickly, his eyes finding Elena's. "No one is taking you away from your mother, but—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "There are things you need to know about our world, things your mother couldn't teach you because she's human." Elena bristled. "I've done just fine raising them on my own. Have you?" Damien's question was gentle but pointed. "Look at them, Elena. Really look at them." Elena studied her children's faces and was startled by what she saw. In the presence of their father, something had awakened in their features. Their eyes seemed brighter, their skin more luminous. There was an energy radiating from them that she had never noticed before. "They're incomplete," Damien continued. "Half of their heritage has been suppressed. They need to understand what they are, how to control their abilities properly." "What abilities?" Elena asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Damien looked at Marcus. "Show her your strength." Marcus glanced at his mother uncertainly, then reached over to the metal sugar dispenser on the table. With minimal effort, he crushed it in his small hand like it was made of clay. Elena gasped. She had known he was strong, but not that strong. "And you," Damien turned to Luna, "you hear things others can't, don't you?" Luna nodded shyly. "I can hear people talking in the apartments 3 blocks away if I concentrate. Sometimes I hear thoughts, but Mom taught me that was rude to listen to." Elena stared at her daughter in shock. Luna had never mentioned hearing thoughts before. These abilities will only grow stronger as they age, Damien explained. Without proper training, they could become dangerous to themselves and others. Elena felt the walls of her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Everything she thought she knew about her children, everything she thought she had under control, was proving to be an illusion. "What are you proposing?" she asked, dreading the answer. "Come home with me," Damien said simply. "All of you. Let me help them learn to control their heritage properly." "Absolutely not," Elena said immediately. "I won't expose my children to that world." "What world?" Marcus asked. "What's so bad about where our father lives?" Elena struggled to explain without sounding prejudiced. "It's dangerous, sweetheart. Vampires live very different lives than humans. They hurt people sometimes." Damien's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger. "You think I would let anyone hurt our children? You think I would put them in danger? I think you live in a world I don't understand," Elena shot back. "A world where violence is normal, where humans are prey. Some vampires are like that," Damien admitted. "But not all of us. Not me. I've built a civilization, Elena. We have laws, order, protection for those who need it." He turned to address the children directly. "I have a castle in the mountains of Colorado. It's not dark and scary like you see in movies. It has gardens, libraries, filled with more books than you could read in a lifetime. And other children like you, half vampires, who are learning to use their abilities." Luna's eyes lit up. "Other kids like us?" "Dozens of them," Damien confirmed. "Children who don't have to hide what they are, who can run and play and learn without pretending to be something they're not." Elena saw the longing in her children's faces and felt her heart break. She had tried so hard to give them a normal life, but maybe normal wasn't what they needed. "I need time to think," she said finally. "This is a lot to process." "Of course," Damien agreed. "But Elena, there's something else you need to know. Something that makes time a factor we don't have much of." Elena's blood chilled. "What do you mean?" Damien's expression grew serious. "I'm not the only one who's been looking for you. There are others in the vampire world who know about the twins now, some who wouldn't hesitate to use them for their own purposes." "What kind of purposes?" Elena asked, though she was afraid of the answer. "Half vampire children of royal blood are incredibly rare and incredibly powerful," Damien explained. "In the wrong hands, they could be trained as weapons. Or worse, their blood could be harvested for its power-enhancing properties." Elena felt sick. "You're trying to scare me into coming with you. I'm trying to protect my family," Damien said firmly. "All of you. Do you really think this small town can keep them safe from vampires who want to find them? I've found you, Elena. Others will too." As if to emphasize his point, Luna suddenly straightened in her chair, her head tilted as if listening to something far away. "There are people outside," she said quietly. "3 of them. They don't smell human." Elena felt her blood turn to ice. Damien was already on his feet, his casual demeanor replaced by the deadly grace of a predator. "Stay here," he commanded, moving toward the windows. "Keep them away from the door." Elena gathered Marcus and Luna close to her as Damien peered through the rain-streaked glass. His expression grew grim. "Friends of yours?" Elena asked, hoping against hope. "No," Damien said grimly. "Definitely not friends." The sound of breaking glass came from the back of the cafe, and Elena realized their quiet life in Millbrook was about to end in ways she had never imagined. The Vampire King had found them, but apparently so had others, with far less noble intentions. Damien turned back to his family, his ice-blue eyes blazing with protective fury. "Elena, whatever happens, stay close to me. Marcus, Luna, do exactly what I tell you. Your real education is about to begin." The children nodded, their young faces serious but unafraid. Elena realized that despite 7 years of hiding, this moment had always been inevitable. Her children were vampire royalty, and the supernatural world was coming to claim them whether she was ready or not. Outside, dark shapes moved through the rain, closing in on the little cafe that had been their sanctuary. Elena reached for her children's hands, knowing that whatever happened in the next few minutes would determine the course of all their lives forever. The Vampire King had come to reclaim his heirs, but he wasn't the only one who wanted them. The real battle for Marcus and Luna's future was just beginning. The sound of footsteps on broken glass echoed from the back of the cafe, and Elena's protective instincts kicked into overdrive. She pulled Marcus and Luna closer, her heart racing as she realized their peaceful life was about to shatter completely. Damien moved with fluid grace, positioning himself between the family and the source of danger. His casual demeanor had vanished, replaced by the lethal authority of a vampire king. Elena could see the predator in him now, the dangerous power she had witnessed 7 years ago that had sent her fleeing into the night. "How many?" Damien called softly to Luna, knowing her enhanced hearing would give them the advantage they needed. "3," Luna whispered, her young face concentrated with effort. 2 men, 1 woman. They're moving through the kitchen now. Marcus stepped forward, his small fists clenched. "Are they here to hurt us?" "Not if I can help it," Damien said grimly. He looked at Elena with an expression that was part apology, part determination. "I need you to trust me now. Can you do that?" Elena looked at her children's faces, saw the fear there mixed with a strange excitement, and realized she had no choice. "Yes!" The kitchen door burst open, and 3 figures emerged into the cafe's main area. Elena's breath caught in her throat. The intruders looked human at first glance, but there was something wrong about them, something in their pale skin, their 2 bright eyes, and the way they moved with predatory grace that marked them as definitely not human. The leader was a tall woman with platinum hair and cold green eyes that seemed to glow in the cafe's soft lighting. She wore an expensive black coat similar to Damien's, but where his presence commanded respect, hers radiated cruelty. "Hello, Damien," the woman said, her voice carrying a slight accent Elena couldn't place. "You look well for someone who's been playing hide-and-seek for 7 years." "Selena," Damien replied, his tone flat and dangerous. "I should have known you'd be involved in this." Elena felt Marcus tense beside her as he took in the newcomers. Even at 7 years old, his supernatural instincts were telling him these people meant them harm. "Such beautiful children," Selena continued, her green eyes fixed on the twins with an intensity that made Elena's skin crawl. "They have your eyes, Damien, and her stubbornness, I imagine." "What do you want, Selena?" Damien's voice carried the authority of royalty, but Elena noticed he hadn't moved away from them. "You know what I want," Selena replied. "The same thing I've always wanted. Power. And these little ones represent more power than you can imagine." One of the men with her stepped forward, a younger vampire with dark hair and cruel features. "The council has been very interested in the rumors about royal half-blood children. Imagine our surprise when we discovered the great Damien Cross had been hiding such valuable assets." Elena's protective instincts flared. "They're not assets. They're children." Selena's laugh was like broken glass. "Oh, my dear naive human. They stopped being just children the moment they drew their first breath. Royal vampire blood mixed with human adaptability? They're walking weapons waiting to be trained." "Over my dead body," Elena said fiercely. "That can be arranged," the 3rd intruder said casually, a woman with short red hair and scars along her jawline. The threat against their mother was too much for Marcus. Elena felt rather than saw him move, his small form blurring with inhuman speed as he launched himself at the scarred woman. She barely had time to look surprised before Marcus's enhanced strength sent her crashing into the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. "Marcus!" Elena called out, but her son was already back at her side, breathing hard but uninjured. Selena clapped slowly, her green eyes bright with malicious delight. "Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Did you see that speed, Damien? That strength? And he's completely untrained. The boy has spirit, the dark-haired vampire admitted, helping his companion to her feet. "He'll make an excellent soldier once we break him in properly." "You're not taking them anywhere," Damien said, and Elena felt the temperature in the cafe drop several degrees. Power radiated from him in waves, reminding everyone present why he was called the Vampire King. "Are you willing to fight 3 of us to keep them?" Selena asked, though Elena noticed she took a subtle step backward. "Even you have limits, old friend." Elena watched this supernatural standoff and realized with growing clarity that her children would never be safe as long as they remained hidden and untrained. Damien had been right. Half vampire royal children were too valuable, too dangerous, for the supernatural world to ignore. "Mom," Luna whispered, tugging on Elena's sleeve. "I can hear more of them outside. At least 6 more." Elena's heart sank. 9 vampires against 1, even if that one was a king, seemed like impossible odds. But Damien smiled, a cold expression that made Elena remember why vampires were apex predators. "Selena, you always were terrible at math." "What do you mean?" the scarred vampire demanded. "You're not facing 1 vampire," Damien said calmly. "You're facing 3. Elena looked at him in confusion, then followed his gaze to Marcus and Luna. The twins were standing straighter now, their young faces set with determination. In the presence of danger, something primal had awakened in them. "We're not going with you," Marcus said, his 7-year-old voice carrying an authority that made the adult vampires take notice. "And you're not hurting our mom." Luna stepped forward beside her brother. "Our father is the Vampire King. That makes us vampire royalty. And we don't bow to kidnappers." Elena felt pride swell in her chest despite the danger. Her children, the ones she had tried so hard to keep from this world, were facing down adult vampires without flinching. Selena's expression shifted to something more calculating. "Smart children, but intelligence won't save you from what's coming. The council wants you, little ones. One way or another, you'll be coming with us." "The council," Damien said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Let me guess, they're tired of my leadership and think royal half-bloods would make better puppets?" "The council believes the vampire race needs new direction," the dark-haired vampire replied. "Your children represent that future. My children," Damien said firmly, "will choose their own future, just like their mother chose hers 7 years ago." Elena felt something shift in the air, a charge of power that made her skin tingle. She looked at Damien and saw his eyes had changed, becoming more silver than blue, more predator than man. "Last chance, Selena," he said quietly. "Leave now, and I might let you live." Selena's response was to signal her companions. The dark-haired vampire moved toward Luna while the scarred woman went for Marcus. But they had underestimated what 7 years of careful training from their mother and inherited vampire instincts could produce. Luna ducked under her attacker's grasp with impossible grace, while Marcus used his enhanced strength to grab a cafe chair and swing it like a club. The sound of metal connecting with vampire flesh rang through the cafe. Elena watched in amazement as her children, her babies whom she had tried so hard to keep from violence, fought alongside their father with natural skill that took her breath away. Damien himself moved like deadly poetry, engaging Selena in combat that was too fast for human eyes to follow. Chairs and tables flew through the air, the cafe's peaceful atmosphere destroyed in seconds. But Elena realized the real battle wasn't the physical one happening around her. It was the choice she had to make about her children's future. She could see now that hiding them had been temporary at best. They were vampire royalty, and that came with responsibilities and dangers she couldn't protect them from alone. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. To her surprise, everyone stopped fighting. Marcus and Luna immediately moved to her side, while Damien positioned himself protectively in front of all of them. Even Selena and her companions paused, perhaps curious about what the human mother had to say. "You want my children because of what they represent," Elena said, addressing Selena directly. "Power, weapons, the future of vampire kind." Indeed, Selena replied, breathing hard from her fight with Damien. But you're all forgetting something important, Elena continued. They're still children. And children need to be protected, guided, and loved, not used. She turned to Damien, her heart breaking but her mind clear. You said you have a place where they could learn safely, where there are other children like them. I do, Damien confirmed. A sanctuary where they can grow into their powers without being exploited. Elena looked at Marcus and Luna, saw the hope in their young faces, and knew what she had to do. Then, that's where we're going. All of us. Elena, Damien said softly, you don't have to give up your life for this. I'm not giving up my life, Elena replied firmly. I'm choosing a new one. With my children, and with you if you'll have me. The admission surprised even her, but Elena realized it was true. 7 years of running had shown her that she couldn't escape her love for Damien any more than she could escape her children's supernatural heritage. Selena snarled in frustration. You think this changes anything? The council will never stop hunting them. Let them try, Damien said, his voice carrying the full weight of his authority. But they'll have to go through me first. And now he looked at Marcus and Luna with pride. They'll have to go through my heirs as well. Elena saw the defeat in Selena's eyes. A vampire king with his mate and children was a formidable enemy, one even the council would hesitate to cross directly. This isn't over, Selena warned as she gestured for her companions to retreat. Yes, Damien said quietly, it is. After the vampires left, the cafe fell silent except for the rain still drumming against the windows. Elena looked around at the destruction, her peaceful life in ruins, her carefully maintained normal existence shattered beyond repair. Are you sure about this, Mom? Luna asked, taking her hand. Leaving everything we've built here? Elena looked at her daughter's face, saw the supernatural beauty that was becoming more pronounced each day, and realized Luna needed more than she could provide alone. I'm sure, sweetheart, it's time we stopped hiding from what you are and started embracing it. Marcus grinned, his silver eyes bright with excitement. Does this mean we can finally go outside during the day? At Dad's place, I mean? The castle is built to accommodate both human and vampire needs, Damien explained. You'll have more freedom there than you've ever known. Elena felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. For 7 years, she had carried the weight of protecting her children alone. Now she would have help, guidance from someone who understood their supernatural nature in ways she never could. What about the cafe? She asked, looking around at the place that had been their sanctuary. We'll find someone to take care of it, Damien assured her. Or keep it as a retreat if you want to come back sometimes. Elena nodded, then looked at her family. Because that's what they were now, she realized. A family brought together by supernatural circumstances and held together by love that had survived 7 years of separation. When do we leave? She asked. Tonight, Damien replied. It's not safe to stay here any longer. As they prepared to leave the cafe that had been their home, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and fear about what lay ahead. She was taking her children into a world she didn't understand, trusting a man she had once run from and giving up the human life she had built. But looking at Marcus and Luna, seeing the anticipation in their faces as they contemplated a future where they could be themselves without hiding, Elena knew she was making the right choice. The Vampire King had found his family, and Elena had found her way back to the love she had never really escaped. Their story was just beginning, but for the first time in 7 years, Elena wasn't running toward an uncertain future. She was running toward home. As they walked out into the rain, Elena took one last look at Luna's haven. The cafe had served its purpose. It had kept her children safe until their father could find them. Now it was time for the next chapter of their lives to begin. Damien's hand found hers as they made their way to his car, and Elena felt the rightness of it in her bones. Whatever challenges lay ahead in their supernatural world, they would face them together. The Vampire King's twins were going home at last. and their mother was coming with them. After 7 years of secrets, their real story could finally begin.